Have you ever well, tried to say something and then you just didn't get it right, and then people are like, "What in the heck are you talking about?" Well, I'm going to talk about that. Okay, so here's a funny story. You ready? I went to Singapore a number of years ago and was over there doing some work at a church for like 5 or 6 weeks, like an internship kind of thing, right? For college and what I was doing. And so I'm over there now. Singapore is an English-speaking country. It was, I guess, a Commonwealth country from Great Britain and the throne, and they claimed their independence, I guess, from Britain in 1967. Maybe, I don't know. Who cares about the history lesson, right? So I'm sitting over there, and I leave where I'm working that day, and I'm going to this pastor's house because that's where I'm staying, right? And it's flat, and I had never known what a flat was. And a flat's like just an apartment, right? But I didn't know that. Everybody called it that, but I had no idea. I was clueless, like I am most of the time these days, anyways. But I was in a cab, and and a cab was, it might have cost like $1 to go from one side of the island to the other. So Singapore's a city state, right? It's only like 25 miles wide and 15 miles deep, but it's like 1 degree north of the equator. So it is like, it's hot, but it's not that hot. It's between 80 and 100 degrees, like year round, right? Maybe 75, but it's not that bad. It's a really cool country. The food is outstanding. I loved it. So, I mean, you want some good Chinese food? There's some good Chinese food, but it's a melting pot of Asia. So all these different nationalities are there, and they all live there, and I like to think that everybody gets along. And so here I'm over there, and taking a cab. I mean, I could have taken a bus, and the bus would have been like 30 cents, right? And the bus isn't bad, but I thought, well, for $1, here, I'd rather have a cab. So I get in a cab, and it's like a little Nissan Sentra or something like that, because cars are really expensive in Singapore. They're like a Honda Accord over here, like a 10-year-old Honda Accord might cost like $40,000 US over there. It's ridiculous because it's such a small space, and it's really like confined. So having a car over there and housing over there is fairly expensive. So we have a flat, and I get in this cab, and I'm driving to get where I've got to go. At the time, Singapore had like a lot of pollution. I'd been back again a number of years ago, and the pollution from cars was not near as bad. Like it was like zero compared to like China today. So I go over there, and I'm in this cab, and I'm driving, and I tell the driver where I have to go. And he said, right now they speak English over there, right? That's the official language. Friends of mine who live there told me that Chinese is spoken at home, in the home, but English is taught in schools. You fly in there and everybody speaks English, but it might not be New York English, it might not be San Francisco English, it might not be Southern English or London English, it's Singaporean English. I didn't know that. So I, with my own tongue, dialect, accent, I say, I have to go to this place called Ang Mo Kio. Ang Mo Kio. And the guy's like, we look confused. We drive around, and we literally drive around, and I'm looking around going, these apartments look really familiar. And now I know we're in the right area, but I'm like, these apartments look really, really familiar. And I'm like, where in the world are we going? Are you just trying to jack up the price of the fare? Because I'm looking around going, okay, I know I am staying somewhere around here. Okay, now Singapore's safe. I don't feel like I'm going to be abducted or anything like that. Because crime's like, you don't chew gum over there and spit it out on the ground. They will arrest you for that, right? And that's a whole nother story, because I got in trouble at the airport for having juicy fruit. Okay, that's another story. I'll tell you about that. But I'm over there, and I go, Ang Mo Kio. And they're like, okay, Ang Mo Kio. And I'm like, So finally, as we're driving around, I'm like, here, give me a piece of paper. You have paper? I'll write it down for you. So he gives me a piece of paper and a pad. So I wrote it down for you today to show you what I did. This is what I wrote down. I wrote down this. See? Ang Mo Kio. Ang Mo Kio, right? And so I'm sitting there, and the guy looks at that and he goes, ah, Mokyo. I'm like, I'm not thinking that Ang Mo Kio is Amokyo. But he pronounced it that way. Amokyo. Oh, Amokyo. Yeah, I know what that is. Like 30 seconds, we were on Amokyo Drive and right at the address I needed to go to. All this other time, we're driving around going crazy. And I'm like, really? So one thing that I learned while I was overseas was to try to pronounce in English or your native tongue the way someone else is going to do the same thing. Does it make sense? So if I went to France, then I would try to speak my French like the French would speak French. Not the way I speak French, but the way they would speak French. So over there, the way they speak English, I learned from that time to speak English the way they speak English, and I got a lot further with being at a restaurant and shopping and things like that. And it's not like it's that different that you don't understand, but it just makes it a little bit more simple. And I would highly recommend going to Singapore. It's not like necessarily a vacation destination. Like I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to go to Singapore over Hawaii, but I did go to Hawaii after Singapore, so that's a whole nother story as well. But Singapore is a beautiful country. It is clean. The people are friendly. The airport is spectacular. And check it out. The airport's an international airport, right? Because it's a city-state. They don't fly like from one end of the island to the other. It's like every flight that comes in is an international flight. So anyways, it's really cool. Little dot on the map, about 10,000 miles away from where I lived over here in North Carolina and Florida. But anyhow, there's my story. So just keep that in mind next time you travel. Or heck, even when you're in the United States, try to talk like they talk wherever they're at. Okay, there's my story. I'm sticking to it. Later, folks.